Hello and welcome to Gundog Nation. This is Kenneth DeWitt coming to you from Texas, and I want you to know that Gundog Nation is much more than a podcast. It's a movement to unite those who love to watch a well-trained dog do what it was bred to do. We are also here to encourage youth to get involved in the sport of gun dogs, whether it's hunting, sport, or competition. I want to build a community of people united to preserve our heritage of gun dog ownership and to be better gun dog owners. Stay tuned to each episode to learn more about training, dog health, wellness, and nutrition from expert trainers, breeders, and veterinarians. Be sure to go on our website, www.gundognation.net, and join our email list. You will receive newsletters from trainers and vets and breeders that will also help you being a better gun dog owner. And be sure to listen to some of our supporters, Mo Pitney, who is a very good country musician and bluegrass musician. He has a bluegrass project called Pitney Myers, and he's getting ready to come out with a new album on Curb Records, so stay tuned. Also, the music provided on our show is from Sean Brock, originally from Harlan, Kentucky, just across the mountain from me. He did all the music that you hear on our introduction and our outro for the show. Played all the instruments except for Scott Vessel on the banjo and Jerry Douglas on the dobro. Check them out. Thank you for listening. Hello, this is Kenneth Witt with Gundog Nation. Many people quickly become frustrated and confused when training the retriever. Cornerstone Gundog Academy's online courses eliminate all the guesswork by giving you a proven training system that will help you train a dog that anyone would be proud to have in their blind. Learn where to start, what to do next, and what to do when problems arise. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to learn how you can train your retriever. I have used this method myself. I have been through it a couple times with different dogs. I refer back to it lots of times when I'm trying to get dogs freshened back up for hunt test season. I highly recommend them. I have actually been a subscribed member of Cornerstone Gundog Academy since 2016, and I would suggest anyone use it. I highly recommend it. They have an app that you can get to on your phone. You can do it from your phone, your laptop. You can't get any more convenient than that. I've used it. It's proven and tried, and I know literally hundreds of people that have done the same thing that I've talked to. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com and learn how to train your own retriever. Hello, welcome back to Gundog Nation podcast. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm talking to y'all from Texas. I have a good friend of mine on here who I've been trying to track down for a while. He has a lot of training experience, dog experience, as much as anybody I know. But I'm going to introduce this guy to you. And actually, I'm going to let him introduce himself to you. But I'm going to give you his name, Mr. Ray Voigt.
Thanks, Ken.
Hey, Ray.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Ray, where are you from? Where are you at today? Where are you talking to me from?
I am at my house in Thomasville, Georgia right now. Actually, I've been on the road a little bit. Was up in Canada last week and did a training seminar over the weekend. And then I was in St. Louis at Purina's headquarters for some meetings. And but home is here. But I grew up in northern Minnesota, actually.
Okay. Now, training seminars. Tell me about that.
A group got together and wanted me to come up. And so I did 3 days. I was in Ontario, and people, they'll kind of organize it, open it up for their training group or the public or whoever they want. And then people sign up. I think we had, it was colder up there, so we weren't in the water. So I think we actually had 15 dogs signed up that we did 3 days worth of setups, marks, blinds, some yard work, different things like that.
Now, did you do that through your job, or is that something you do privately?
More privately. I do some stuff for Purina as well. But then I also, do a few, try to keep it to a limited number, but try to do a couple a year that I kind of do on my own.
Now, Ray, you have a unique job. Probably a lot of us dog guys would probably like to have your job. Tell listeners what you do for a living now.
So now I manage the retriever, spaniel, and herding segments for Nestle Purina ProPlan's sporting segment, or sporting division. So anything that any events that you go to that have, hunt test field trials and any of those venues, like I said, retriever, spaniel, or herding, anything you see Purina related at those events goes through me basically. So, we have agreements, contracts, and stuff with different organizations, from the Master National Club to the National Amateur Club, National Open, English Springer Spaniel Field Trial Association, English Cocker Spaniel Club of America, United States Border Collie Handlers Association. So kind of all those organizations are ones that we support and sponsor their big events and different, the HRCs, Hunting Retriever Club's another big one. Probably that one's really big, actually, the overall scope of the HRC. So yeah, anything printer related at events is me.
No, so Ray, do you have the entire U.S.?
Yes.
That's crazy. How in the world do you do that?
Spend a lot of time on airplanes. I have recently gotten to gold status on Delta, and I have 4 consultants too that are work with me. I can, they go to different events. We kind of, like this fall, for example, there's multiple things that are going to overlap with each other. The fall gets really busy as far as national level stuff. So, with there being 5 of us total, we can kind of divide and conquer a little bit. I can send people to other places if I can't be there, or, a lot of times there's multiple of us at the big events like the Grand, the Master National. There's usually 2 or 3 of us at all of those.
Now, one of those big events was in Thomasville, Georgia, wasn't it?
The Master National was here 2 falls ago. I think there was 1,200 dogs in it. So
I saw a guy at a hunt test this weekend with a cap on, said Thomasville, Georgia. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you stay on the road pretty heavy.
Yeah, there's a couple, January, February is January is a little quieter, and then summertime, July and August is a little quieter as far as national stuff. There's always weekend events in all those venues, but the national stuff is, I try to get to most of those. That's when you have your biggest audience and you have the most trainers or biggest gathering of people. So try to make sure I get to as many of those as I can, and then fill in with other weekend events. I try to get to Texas to see everybody, which actually didn't happen this year. But normally I try to come to Texas in the wintertime for a week or two. Montana in the summer is another big area, Western Montana. So last year I went out there for a couple of weeks. So it's, even on the downtime, there's still a lot of travel, but it's, it's business is really about relationships, and you can't maintain those if you're not out there.
So Ray, being a Minnesota native, I assume you grew up hunting.
I did. A lot of grouse, woodcock, and then, had some friends that duck hunted, and they kind of got me into duck hunting, and then got my first dog and really, really enjoyed it, and started running hunt tests when I was in high school, and just kind of made it a career from there.
Now, when you're running hunt tests in high school, Ray, was it retrievers?
Yes.
So you've been at it a long time.
Yes. Let's see. I hate to let everybody know how old I am, but it's, I think it's about 28 years total now. Wow. I started when I was 14.
That's insane. I kind of wish I'd started. I had dogs and semi-trained and stuff, but not at the level that you have. That's insane. And now you also became a pro trainer, correct?
Yes. Well, after I graduated high school, had the chance to train with a few different people and learn and throw birds and start getting my hands on a few dogs here and there. And then I got a full-time position with Mike Lardy and was there for 14 years full-time.
Now, where's he located? I know his name, and I know he's real popular, but
he's central Wisconsin and South Georgia. So that's kind of how I ended up in Thomasville.
Okay. I figured I'd say you got down there in Thomasville. Okay. How long have you been in Georgia?
Well, since winter trips, since I was 18, and then we've had the house now for 5 years. Okay.
That's a long time. So, Ray, do you have count on how many dogs you've titled?
Roughly 53 field champions, I think, was the last. I tried to go with that. When I quit training full time, I kind of tried to go through the list. So it's somewhere in that range, I think, low to mid 50s of field champions.
That's insane. What other titles have you obtained?
We had one in the time that I was in charge of the nationals. We had 3 national amateur champions, 1 national open champion. So 4 NFCs basically. And then the dogs, the title dogs. And then between myself and the customers, in 8 years, we had 40 national finalists.
That's impressive. Now, is Mike still in business?
He's not. When I went to Purina, he kind of stopped training full time with the kennel. He still will do the occasional seminar, or he did some day training for a little while now. But he is living retirement and loving it.
Nice. Now, how long have you been with Purina?
5 years.
And have you always been at this same position?
Yes.
Okay. So, Ray, when you were with Mike and you were training all these years and titling dogs, did you title dogs other than retrievers?
I mean, we didn't. We had we had a golden retriever, but the bulk of everything was all Labradors.
Okay. Okay. So you didn't do any like upland titles with spaniels or anything, setters?
No, strictly. We just ran strictly AKC field trials.
Wow. Well, Mike, I didn't, I knew that you did stuff like that. I had no idea how deep that went with you. So let me ask you, in all your years and all your experience, and gosh, you've got a lot. And I don't know if I ever talked to anybody that said that many field trials or field champions on my show. What differences do you see now in dogs from when you were a teenager starting to do that?
I mean, I think really the breeding has evolved. The training methods have evolved. I think people are much better with sensitive dogs now. They understand how to kind of get through to a sensitive dog, just through more teaching, less pressure. Some of the best dogs I've had were you'd classify as kind of sensitive, but they were extremely smart. And if you didn't overwhelm them, they were really good at thinking. They could figure things out. I mean, I know it's a different way than humans, but they really, you could almost see them you could see them figuring things out in the field and thinking freely, right? So I've always felt like dogs under a lot of pressure don't think freely, and just kind of watching the evolution of how more and more dogs are that way these days. And the dogs have just gotten so good. Our equipment has gotten better. The training collars, the time. That's another big thing is, even when I first started, you had to screw in the plug, and you couldn't change the level of the collar. You put in one, you kind of found the level you wanted, and that was the plug you screwed into the Tritronics. And, now with being able to dial up and dial down for certain situations, and it's really just helped everything evolve. And I think it's helped the dogs process what we want them to do much more clearly and freely.
So, Ray, let me see here. I'm gonna really get your expertise. So, how would you handle? What advice would you give to a guy like me that wants to get a pup or gets a dog and it's kind of soft? How do you treat it differently than rather say a dog that can take some heat, take some pressure?
Well, I think the key with all of them is to maintain your standard. So whatever standard you're going to set, I think you just reduce the amount of pressure it takes or the amount of correction. So I'm not going to, the worst thing you can do with a sensitive dog is let it get away with something for a period of time and then one day decide you can't do that anymore. Because now, they're sensitive, and now all of a sudden the rules change instantly and they don't know how to handle that or how to take that. So to me, it's more about maintaining the standard that you want to set, but doing it in a way that you can use less pressure. I mean, if you can see the dog getting a little overwhelmed, we're going to back up. We're going to potentially take a little longer to go through the yard and some of those steps, and over teach some of those dogs that are a little more sensitive versus, okay, let's just roll up our sleeves and get after it, So, and they're all a little different. That's the other thing. It's trying to individualize, and it's really just kind of being able to read them when they're starting to get a little stressed on something, when to back off, when to back up a few steps and reteach something before you try to enforce it, and then just reducing the amount of overall correction in general, but while maintaining your standard. So
would you even say with a more sensitive dog, would you maybe on a training session, train it for less time, say just for an example, you would normally train a dog for 15 minutes, would you maybe reduce, or do you just keep that training time the same? Or do you just play it by ear?
I mean, it kind of really is a feel. Like, I don't have a set, like, okay, well, yard work should take 15 minutes every day. It's really, kind of what they did, where you finished up yesterday. Sometimes it might be really quick. If I've, say, been trying to work on a specific thing and they've had a little bit of trouble, and all of a sudden that first 5-10 minutes of today, I get a little breakthrough, I'm going to stop. Sometimes you get into a little something where it's like, I want to push through this. I know we can get through this right now. So sometimes that takes a little longer. And, so also the younger the dog, or the maturity level is a big factor. You can just see some of them, like puppies have the attention span of a gnat sometimes. So, you can kind of tell when you're starting to lose that attention and then trying to get out of it before you kind of dig a hole, so to speak, with it, when they're not trying real hard, and then you get frustrated, and then you usually end up having to back up the next day instead of picking up where you left off. So there's really not, like I said, there's not a set time. It's really reading the dog and kind of keeping that attention engaged. And I mean, it's really with the younger dogs, it's getting them to want to learn, I think, so ways to do that, whether it's shorter sessions or certain dogs take a few minutes just to get some of the excitement out, and then they can really focus. So knowing the difference in which kind of dog you have and just kind of applying it, one dog, it might be 15 minutes one day and 5 the next, and then back, so it really varies.
I see. I like that. That's great advice. So do you have, with this schedule that you have, do you have time to, let me ask you, let me back that up. How many dogs do you have at home right now?
I have, there's 2 here right now, but one of them's mine.
It cut out just a second, right? Could you repeat that? We got a little delay.
Oh, sorry. We have 2 dogs right now. One of them's mine, and one of them we're doing some puppy training with. Okay.
So you still do some training. I know you probably don't have time to do a lot.
Not a lot. It's really the puppy's kind of a certain situation. It's for a family member. So it's hard to do. Like, I feel guilty bringing a dog in to train for somebody else, and then I'm gone a bunch. So, with this, it's kind of a little bit of a, for, like I said, for a family member, it's not going to be a field trial dog. And, but my dog she's 4 now. She's a master hunter. She's qualified all age. And we're just starting to run a few opens with her. So she has to do that on a part-time schedule. So
that's the only trials and tests you're doing right now. It's with her when you get a chance.
Correct. That I'm handling. And yes, correct.
Okay. Do you ever handle for other people anymore?
No, not anymore.
Okay. Let's talk about, one of the things we both agree on 100% is Purina ProPlan. And I'm sure, Ray, with your experience, you could have got a job at maybe any dog food company. Did you choose Purina, or did they choose you?
I mean, I'd like to think it was both.
Yeah.
I certainly chose them. I mean, honestly, from my first dog at 14 years old, the first person I talked to said, "Hey, this is the best option. This is what you want to get." And I have never fed a different brand of food from age 14 to 42.
Wow.
So I've always had good results. I've never had issues and then once I got into running and competing and running hunt tests in high school, and then starting in field trials, and when you see the scope of what they do for the dog sports, not just in the things that I do, but beagles, coonhounds, bird dogs, police canines. I mean, the scope of it is so much greater than just retrievers or spaniels, and with what they do to support the conservation community too. Also, besides dogs, Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, Rough Grouse Society, all that type of stuff. It really, to me, it's the company that gives the most back to what we love and what I've loved and done my entire life. So, when the position became available, I'd like to think it kind of worked out good for both of us.
Yeah. Purina ProPlan. Here at Gundog Nation, we use Purina ProPlan for our dogs. We actually use the Sport Performance Edition, which is 30% protein and 20% fat, the beef and bison. It contains glucosamine, omega-3s for their joints. It also contains amino acids for muscles and antioxidants. And it also has probiotics. It's guaranteed to have live probiotics in each serving. There's no artificial colors or flavors. We see the difference in our dogs. We see the difference in their coat, their performance, their endurance, and also in recovery. Be sure to use Purina ProPlan dog food. The reputation speaks for itself. There's a reason that Purina has been around for such a long time. We suggest that you use it, and we are so proud to be sponsored by Purina Dog Food. Well, that's great. No, I mean, it's nice knowing, because you're my Purina rep too, and that I've got a guy like you with a world of knowledge to lean on, when I have an issue. What makes it better?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I think there's a lot of quality foods, right? So, but what I think makes Purina better is the amount of research and development that goes into a lot of their products. I mean, I think we have over 500 veterinarians, nutritionists, and scientists on staff that develop all the formulas. Everything we do or put out there is feed tested on a kennel. We have a kennel where we conduct feeding tests. I mean, they've conducted lifetime studies over which took 12, 14 years over the whole lifetime of the dogs. So I think the research, the development, and the testing that goes into it, I think is above and beyond. You can find somebody that can help you. If say you have a nutrition question for me and I don't know the answer, I have a whole team that I can go to try to get the answers that anybody needs. The way it's formulated for working dogs with the protein to fat ratio, the oxygen metabolization, the VO2 max, all that stuff I think really is catered to what we want the dogs to be able to do and to be able to perform. Yes. So I think those are the things that set us apart. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that all the other companies aren't quality, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of quality foods, but I think our research, our development, and the people that you have, the company behind you and the support that they have I think that's what sets us apart.
Well, I'm even going to add to that, Ray, and I agree with everything you said. And I've used other foods. And it weren't that they were bad, but I had better results with ProPlan. And the other foods I've got, I thought they were good until I tried ProPlan again. I came back to it, and I saw the difference. And I've got 6-7 dogs right now. I do protection dogs. So 2 of our protection dogs are Dobermans. They're very hard to keep weight on. Like it's because they're so energetic. They work so hard, and they're really hard to keep weight on them. And when I switched them back to ProPlan, it was a world of difference. And I never had a problem keeping weight on them again. So I believe in it. But what even takes it a step further is I really feel proud that you guys sponsor this show because you do so much for the community. This podcast, and I don't want to bore you so much with all that, but this podcast, I have a goal to do this. It's not just to get up here and talk. I want to bring a whole community of gun dog owners together, and I want us to preserve our sport. But I also want us to be better owners, know more about nutrition. I have veterinarians on here from Texas A&M. I've got a new one. Well, I've got 2 episodes with veterinarians, and we'll continue doing that. And I won't have a whole episode dedicated to dog nutrition, and I'm going to talk to you about that too. Mm-hmm. But anyway, no, I really like what they do, how they support the hunt test world, the field trial world, the conservation world. I saw you guys at Pheasant Fest. I was down there too, and y'all had a huge presence there. And you gave on seminars. You had Ronnie Smith on stage, and who's one of my favorites. I actually I just went to his seminar 3 weeks ago in Oklahoma. Amazing dog trainer. I've never seen a guy like him, and his wife too. She's as good as he is,
and better people.
Yeah, they're the fine people. I stayed up there all weekend and was treated. They had the red carpet rolled out for us, fed us good. It was worth every dollar. And now that I know you do seminars, I'm going to have to talk to you about that too. Ray, I know you're busy as heck. I know it because I text you sometimes, and I hate to even bother you because I know how busy you are. But if someone wanted you to come and put on a seminar, are you available? Is it limited?
Soonest,
I'm sure.
Like this year's book, I'm usually a year or two out.
Okay.
So 2026 potentially. This year's already, has been scheduled since last year. So,
Okay.
Yes, the answer is yes, but it has to it has to work around events and other things that are going on. So obviously my first priority is to cover everything that I need to with Purina and make sure I'm doing my real job properly first. And then I'll try to fit in a couple, like I said, a year here and there. So certainly a possibility, but just trying to get dates that work for everybody and times. And that gets a little tricky sometimes, but yes, that was a long-winded answer to yes.
Well, so that's okay. I'm the king of long-winded. How would one get a hold of you, Ray, if they wanted to, say a retriever club wanted to get up with you to maybe put a seminar on for them? What would you let the listeners know how they can get a hold of you, if you don't mind?
Usually somebody in the club would know me, or have somebody that would have my contact, and they would just reach out and say, hey, we're thinking about holding this seminar. Can I get some information on it? I know I've been talking to Habitat Flats Kennel up in Missouri about potentially going up there next year. I'm going to be in Colorado later this year. So it's just kind of, if somebody wants to do it, I've been to Rhodey's place. I know you've done podcasts with Rhodey before. Yeah. So just somebody like that, somebody's like, hey, Rhodey, we should try to get Ray in here for the Lost Pines Retriever Club. And then Rhodey reaches out and see if we can make it work.
I was just down there at Hunt Test this weekend, and I'm now AKC junior judge. I did my apprentice down there Sunday at Rhodey's, and I ran a dog Saturday.
Okay.
He's got a beautiful place.
He does.
I loved it. Yeah, I had no idea it was that nice till I got out there. And that's another good, like Ronnie Smith, that's another good bunch of people too, Dakota and Rhodey. So the dog behind you in the picture, tell us about that.
He is the 2016 National Field Champion. His name was Windy City's Mighty Mouse. He was a dog that we had, and I raised from a puppy. So Charlie Hines owned him. I had him. Charlie gave him to me, I think 7 or 8 weeks old. I had him until he kind of went off for formal basics training with Bruce Curtis, and then he came back to us. I think he was about 1.5 years old, somewhere in there. And then Charlie does a lot of training on his own in the summers. He would take the dogs home, but we had him for a period of time until he was kind of ready to start running, and then he went back and forth between us and Charlie, and he was just got elected into the Retriever Hall of Fame here a couple of years ago. Had just shy of 200 lifetime points, won the national, finished 4 or 5 others, and has now produced. He's produced several high point open dogs. The one year he had the top 3 open dogs in the country were all out of him with 3 different litters. So has become a pretty good producer, and So
that's what's important, isn't it? A lot of dogs can reach that. Well, dogs can reach a high level, but not necessarily produce themselves.
And I'm going to tell you, it's hard to get to that level. I mean, when we're talking that, we're looking at the top 1% of retrievers, and it's a tough sport. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and that goes into it. And then when it works out, it's really, really special. And you got to really enjoy the journey part of it. A lot of people get wrapped up in the results, and they get frustrated if they get a jam in a field trial and didn't place. But at the end of the day, think of all the effort it took to get there, and just finishing field trials is not an easy task. So you got to really try to slow down a little bit and think about it. And I was certainly not that way when I was doing it every weekend. It was about, results and making phone calls to owners. And, you win, you get 3 placements out of 4, and you got other people that didn't get out of other dogs that didn't get out of the first series. So, so trying to enjoy the whole process is cool. And now when you look back and actually you can't really see the picture there above the door there's another one. It's kind of blurry, but that's 2015 National Amateur Champion Roxy McBunn. And she was another one we had from Bill Benson owned her, and he was a little less hands-on, so she stayed with us. I mean, I shouldn't say he wasn't hands-on, but he lived close enough where she was with us more. And I mean, he was a great owner and took her home. I mean, she lived a great life, so don't take that as he just put her on the truck and left her there. But we had her more full-time, and like I said, she won the 2015 National Amateur in Montana. And so, yeah, that was another pretty special one.
How many dogs have you put that you've trained have gone in the Hall of Fame?
Ooh, let's see, that I've had my hands on. Let's see. I think 5.
Wow.
And I think 5, and when it's all said and done, I would hope 2 more have a pretty good shot at getting in.
Nice. Ray, are you familiar with Floyd, the dog?
I mean, I've watched him run. He's amazing. I mean, I've watched him at the Nationals. With them being in Oregon, it's not a part of the world that I get to spend a lot of time in or get to see. But, I mean, just watching him perform. I mean, when we just talked about what sets dogs apart and being able to think things, figure things out, I mean, he is the prime example of that. Both those Nationals he won, I mean, he's just phenomenal dog. He's done it now twice in Canada too. And so, yes, he's a great dog.
Do you know his owners or handlers?
I do.
Are they the same, the owners and handlers?
So he's owned by Amy Henninger, who Amy and John primarily was training the other dogs, but John and Amy have True Line Kennel out in Oregon.
Okay.
But I think
Floyd's son.
Amy runs Floyd all the time.
Okay. I need to reach out to him. I've got a Floyd son, and he looks just like him. I've never seen him in person, but in pictures, he looks, and he's a little over, he's getting ready to hit a year old. Yeah. No, he's a little over a year old.
And, I've heard some good things. I've heard some good things from people that have puppies. I personally haven't really seen them, but I know more West Coast, some of the, mountain area trainers, and a lot of them I've heard some good things about the way the puppies look.
Yeah, I haven't seen other litters from other breedings from him, but just the one I have, I've seen his litter mate sister hunted with her and him, and she was impressive too. But I think he's going to be something else. I'm trying to work with him, and I may have to get some guys to help me take it a little higher.
Never any shame in that.
No, I've reached out to a couple of pro trainers here in Texas, but yeah, I'm gonna have to get some help. I think I think I've done all I can do with him. But anyway, so I assume you just have one dog. You've never really been a breeder, then, have you? No,
that is not. I mean, I'm obviously you're familiar with a lot of the pedigrees and things, but no, I'm not there's no whelping box in anywhere near me.
That's me too. I don't think that's a lot of work.
And it's hard. I mean, it seems like it's just there's so many things that can go wrong, and it's so hard, and the amount of time and effort, and I have plenty of friends that do it, and it's a hard gig. You put so much into it and emotionally get wrapped up in it, and then something can happen to one of them, and it's a draining process.
It is, and people think all these pups are high, but really, if you buy a well-bred pup and it's a really responsible breeder, and they're doing everything that they can to make that pup the best it can be, health and everything, they're not really making a big lot of money. I mean,
No, I mean, like where I got our dog from, I mean, she was, I'm not going to say she was housebroken, but I mean, they were used to going outside after they ate. And I mean, so all those habits, the exposure to different things, exposure to birds and water, and raised in the house, not in a kennel, and like I said, they feed the puppies, and then they take the puppies outside to potty right away, from the time they started eating solid food. And just the extra effort and the time that goes into it and you can see the difference when you get one that's raised like that versus potentially a puppy that just is raised in the kennel its whole life.
Yes. Since you're obviously out on the circuit, I know you're not competing that much now. What are some of the really good bloodlines that you're seeing right now that you like? If you had time, you would.
Well, I mean,
grab one.
Right there, he's been producing really well. I mean, he's since passed, but a lot of his sons are doing well and starting to produce well. This puppy we have that, like I said, we're not a field trial future, but all the go in the world. She's out of dog named Rimfire's Once in a Blue Moon, which is a Mickey son. And I've heard some really nice things about his puppies. I know I've watched him compete through his career. Another Flex, Flawless Execution. I've seen some really nice dogs out of him. I'm really curious to see more of the Floyd, now that, because it's, it takes a few years to get where you're going to see him on a national level. So now his puppies should be starting to get to the age where we'll start to see what they're like. Certainly those three are big. I know there's some others I'm not thinking of right now, but those ones are really good. There's another Mickey son named Champ, Outback's Rising Star, that was High Point Open Dog a couple of years ago. I've seen a few puppies out of him that looked really good. So yeah, and a lot of it goes back like to Carbon and Chopper and a lot of that stuff. So that's what I kind of we are potentially breeding our dog next year, so we've had many of conversations over what would work, and most of them revolve around a Mickey frozen breeding or a Mickey son.
Okay. And your female's out of?
She's out of a dog named Rush. JS Get Your Rush On, who's a field champion that we had until we kind of, when we stopped training, then he went to India Tar and qualified for a few nationals, was field champion, I think, as a 3-year-old. Really liked him. And then the mother's side there was Grady, who we had, and several other dogs that we had that were field champions. And, so just a strong pedigree of dogs that I know. Yeah. I like knowing the dog's personality, because to me, there's a lot more to it than performance. So I want to know what they're like to live with. I want to know what they're like to be around. When we get done at the end of the day, are they going to be fun to hang out with? Are they going to be pacing around and activity and noisy and, all those little traits. And I knew all the dogs on the mother's side and I knew Rush. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me to not only kind of get something out of a lot of dogs that I'd had my hands on, but dogs that I all knew and wanted to be around.
Yeah, there's things that those titles can't tell you, right?
That's right.
So, Ray, when you were in Minnesota and you were obviously in really nice upland hunting country, once you got into retrievers, did you go back to upland hunt? Do you still do that?
Not as much as I would like, but yes. Like I said, grew up grouse hunting with my Labrador, and that was, I really enjoyed that. That's kind of got everything started. And then waterfowl and also big game up there, which of course doesn't have much to do with gun dogs, but that was kind of everything together. And then started, as we got into training, got some opportunities, went to South Dakota did some pheasant hunts in South Dakota, which I absolutely loved. Haven't been back there in a little while now, but would 100% love to do it more. And get to waterfowl hunt quite a bit more now than I used to, just kind of with some of the connections that that I've gotten. People like yourself that say, "Hey, I got a duck club. You want to come hunt with me for a couple of days?" And so those opportunities have been great as well. So I think I duck hunted more this past year than in more states than I have gotten to before. So
nice. Did you get to take your dog much?
No, that's the one downside. She didn't go at all. I've taken her a couple times, but it's kind of hard. Sometimes it's a flight somewhere. Sometimes it's hard when you get invited somewhere and, oh, by the way, can I bring my, they all have dogs. And by the way, can I bring my dog? And she's going to have to sleep with me because, she'll probably not like being outside because she's not used to that. And so that makes it a little harder. That's the only thing that I can't complain about any of the opportunities I've had. And I'm so thankful for them. But I would love to get her out a little bit more, but it's all right.
Hello, this is Kenneth Witt, and Gundog Nation is proud to have one of their sponsors as Retriever Training Supply, based in Alabama. Retriever Training Supply offers fast shipping on quality gear. Your dog will love it. Visit retrievertrainingsupply.com to purchase gear to help you train your retriever. Listen, they have some of the best leashes I've ever found. It's stuff's made in America. Their leashes are, and they source them locally. They have anything you want, fast, friendly service, fast shipping, just good people. Retriever Training Supply. What do you look for when you were doing, you've done so many field trials and won so many, accolades in that world. What's some of the things you look for in a dog when you think, okay, I think this dog's got what it takes?
That's really a hard thing because kind of my old thinking was, the top 5% you can tell, or top 10%, right away they're special. They have some of the they just have the it factor. And then there's probably the bottom 10% that you can tell. They just don't really have the desire, don't really have the want to. And then there's a big chunk in the middle that you got to let them develop, and you don't, let them mature and just experience and how they can learn, and all those things come into play as they get older, whether they develop into a good competitive dog or not. But really, obviously marking is a huge part in the sport, hunt test, field trials. And if they can mark well, if they're a team player, compliant. There's a lot of really good dogs that are a little hard to manage. So I always like, ones that like to sit there, watch their birds. You didn't have a whole commotion. You weren't constantly worried about their line manners. Now, I've had some really good dogs that we had to keep our eye on that sort of stuff, right? But if I'm trying to pick the ideal dog, I want one with enough go, but that's not completely crazy.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's exactly what I look for too, in a dog that I want to have. So I assume all your travels in your job, you've probably got to meet some influential, famous people here and there.
A few. As far as celebrities in general, or dog training celebrities.
Both.
Yeah, from a dog training standpoint, I've gotten to meet a lot of people, a lot of really good trainers in a lot of different venues. Some of the the herding people. Trainers from South Africa, from Canada, came over here from Scotland. Some of the best in the world. And so that's really cool to have some of those relationships. And same thing with the spaniel trainers that have won everything, and I'll continue to compete at a high level. And, then you got the Mike Lardys and the Danny Farmers and the Alan Pleasants of the world that, those are retriever field trial royalty, so, and getting to work for Mike for 14 years was a great experience. And, now, there's, some sports people, I've met Michael Phelps and Aaron Andrews and some of the Livy Dunn, some singers, Riley Green, things like that. So that's been kind of cool.
Was it because they were dog people?
Yes, it was. And all of them are have an affiliation with ProPlan.
Okay. Wow. And Michael Phelps too.
Mm-hmm. He has a Great Dane that his dog eats ProPlan Sport.
Nice. That's I hadn't heard that name in a while. That's pretty neat. So you like I said, there's a lot of guys like us love to have that job. That's a great job, and I think you're the man for it. Definitely.
Well, next time you see my boss, just make sure he thinks that too.
I will. I'll put in a word, and I'm good at that stuff. So what's next for you? What's this year look like for you? What big events do you have coming up?
Well, I'm actually headed Tuesday. I go to Nashville to host the High Point Retriever Field Trial Awards. So basically, we honor last year's High Point dog in the Open, the Amateur, and the Derby. So that travels around every year. Last year it was down here in Thomasville. This year it's in Nashville. So we switched time zones. That's one of my biggest events, just as far as not in terms of amount of people, but in terms of what I have to do. So it's organizing, getting all the stuff for the winners. They get portraits of the dog, they get plaques and banners, and just kind of organizing venues and caterers and all that sort of stuff. So that's coming up next week. And then May, I have 2 big sheepdog events, one in Kentucky, one out in Utah. So I'll be at both of those. Then the National Amateur Retriever Championship is in June up in Wisconsin. And then I get a little break. And then come fall, we have the Herding National Finals, the Derby National, the Open National, both Cocker Nationals and both Springer Nationals are all in the, between September and end of November.
Now, the herding dog one in Kentucky, where is that at?
Lexington.
Wow, I didn't know. I've had a couple of really nice border collies, cattle dogs, and one was a Scotland import. I love them. They're so smart.
It's fun to watch the trials. It's actually the one sport that's really universal across the world on how they're scored and what the kind of the pattern, and you'd say this, so to speak, like what the dogs have to do with gathering the sheep and moving them around and how all that goes. That's universal. If you compete in the U.S. or over in Norway, you're going to find the same system. So they actually host they have a world trial every 3 years, which was last year over in Northern Ireland. And I think that U.S. came in 3rd, which was a pretty good. When you think about,
I like watching those too. I've never been to a live one. Well, I've seen exhibitions like the Houston Rodeo and stuff, but I love to watch them work, and I'd like to attend one of those. The venue in Nashville, where will it be at?
It is in Smyrna, Tennessee, which is south of Nashville, probably 20 minutes from the airport, very close to the Middle Tennessee Amateur Retriever Club grounds. They host. We also kind of do it in conjunction with the field trial. So next weekend is the Middle Tennessee field trial. We'll come in. I'll leave Tuesday, spend Wednesday kind of doing preparations, and then we host a free 1-day training seminar every year, the day before the trial starts. So free to anybody. We cap the dogs, but as many people that want to come as are welcome. We provide lunch for everybody and just do kind of a one day training seminar. And then Friday night after the field trial gets over, we have the banquet where we do the presentation of all the awards. And so it's in Smyrna. There's an event center there, and that's actually where we're going to have it this year.
Man, I wish I could go to that. My brothers live in Nashville, and I actually have a house there. It's about, and my mom has a place there too. But yeah, that's well, heck, if you got free time, one of my brothers plays at the Redneck Riviera down there on Broadway, and
oh yeah,
my other brother plays all over the place. So I don't know half the time where he's playing, but you have to go check him out. But no, man, I wish I could attend that. I actually know some guys at the Middle Tennessee Club.
Okay. Yeah, and it'll move around. Like next year, we'll be out in I think it's Pacific time zone again. So we'll have to get that hashed out here in probably next week. We have an awards committee that a person from each time zone across the country, and then we'll get together. They all come in for the awards as well, and we'll decide where next year's are going to be held and all that sort of stuff.
Wow. Okay. Well, so you do have a pretty versatile job, not just for so cockers. The spaniels, are they mostly cockers or springers and cockers?
Both, and Boykins as well.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you this, because I don't know the answer. So when they have the field trials for spaniels, is it all spaniels or is it just cockers, just springers, just boy?
They'll have a cocker trial or a springer trial. Okay. Now, sometimes they're held in conjunction with each other. So, maybe they'll run a trial with springers and they'll run a trial with cockers. But they can be the same weekend in the same place, but one's cockers and one's springers.
And do the Boykins have something separate, or how do they do those?
The Boykins are more hunt test like you would see more retriever. I mean, they do have upland trials for the Boykins as well, but a lot of their weekend tests, and they're actually, the Boykin National was just last week in South Carolina. So it would look more like a hunt test where the multiples and run blinds and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's the South Carolina state dog. I guess that's fitting that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as Purina goes, I guess because I've got a lot of friends, I've had some on the show that's world champion coonhound guys. I don't guess that's not your department, right?
That is not my department. When we were in St. Louis, the whole sporting team was together for some meetings, and I was just with the person, but he lives in Louisiana. We're all remote. Our bird dog guys in Wisconsin, our beagle and coonhound guys in Louisiana, and I'm here. And then our boss lives in Colorado. So
okay, all right. So that's how it's divided up. So you have a bird dog guy. So you like setters, pointers,
anything that points, he does. Yep.
Okay.
So the way we look at it is, it's more of our area of what we know, right? So being in the Southeast, there's a ton of bird dog trials, but I don't know anything about training a bird dog. So it'd be hard for me to show up and be relevant and in that world when I just don't have the background or know the people. So same, if somebody else shows up that has never been around a retriever before, then it's so it makes more sense to do kind of our segment is what we call it, like the retriever segment, the bird dog segment. And so, yeah.
Well, I just like the fact that Purina hires experts in the field.
The sporting group is not nobody that sits in a cubicle. We're all remote. We're all out in the field. We all have dogs. Our bird dog guy got a dog elected into the one of his personal dog into the Hall of Fame last year. So, it's a collection of outdoor people that not everybody necessarily was a professional trainer, but they all have the background. They all have dogs. They all love the outdoors and conservation and all that sort of stuff.
I like that. Well, it just makes you feel more confident. And like I said, it's nice having you on the other end. If I need something, I try not to bug you, but, so if you want to do this pheasant hunting thing, I'm gonna have to hook you up to go with me in October. If you got time.
My favorite saying is, "Don't threaten me with a good time."
I tell you, Ray, my very first episodes with Scott Nienaber out of Huron, Wisconsin, and he's a guide. I've been going there. This will be my 4th year in a row, and it's wild birds, and I'm hooked. As long as I'm alive and I can't make it, I will be there hunting opening day.
There is nothing like a pheasant flush. It's just that rooster coming up out of the cattails or whatever. Yeah. I love to duck hunt, but there's just, I guess anything with the dogs is fun to watch.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's something about a pheasant flush, frosty morning and that bird coming out of those cattails cackling, and it's a experience that everybody needs to.
It's fun. It's another way to hunt with my dog, obviously, but it's just something I enjoy. And I think I deer hunted for so many years and had to sit still and be quiet and have no smell on my body. And, now I can stink and be loud and walk and still talk and still shoot stuff. So it's all right.
We used to go late in the year where you had to be a little careful about how loud you were or you weren't going to get very close.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. You get smart quick.
But that's half the fun of it too, trying to figure out how to hunt a field where they're not all going to just run out the end or, that's part of the fun too, the strategy of it all. Especially
it is. Most what we hunt up there is probably 75% cornfields.
Okay.
And then we'll hunt sorghum, milo or something like that. And then a little native grass, maybe a little bit, cattails. Well, Ray, I was trying to think if there's anything else. Is there anything else you want to add about about your job? Anything you want to speak about as far as your products and stuff?
I mean, I think we covered that pretty good, really. I mean, just like I said, I mean, we kind of touched on what it's meant to me for my entire career, from, like I said, right now from 14 to 42, and it's it's always been a big part of my life, and it still is, and just everything with the dogs in the sporting world, and it's a big part of it.
I want to thank you for keeping this alive. This is a sport, and it's a fun sport. It's a great sport. And you meet some of the best people in the world you meet in this business and or in this sport, not just a business, but it's a sport. And, I also think I'm so thankful that Purina is such a supporter of this. So can't say enough good things about it. But Ray, it's been a pleasure. Now I know a little bit deeper about your training. I might be aggravating you some for some training tips, but I'll try not to hit you up too bad. And then, like I said, if you get down in Texas, come out to the ranch. I've got a few exotics on the place.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
If you get desire to shoot something, then got plenty of predators if you want to predator hunt too.
Oh yeah, I got my 25-06 ready.
There you go. That's perfect. Yeah, that's a nice round. I like that. I don't own a 25-06, but I've shot it, and I've killed something with one. A buddy of mine had. But anyway, well, Ray, thank you so much. This won't come out for a little bit, but it's Good Friday, and I hope you and your family have a wonderful Easter weekend. And thank you for taking time on your Friday and your busy schedule to come on the show. It's been a privilege.
Well, thank you for having me. Same to you. Happy Easter, and to everybody listening. And hopefully we'll run into y'all down the road. If you don't know me and we're at an event, come over and say hi. And love to meet new people and talk dogs. And it's been a pleasure. I appreciate it. We'll have to do it again.
You said we'll definitely do this again, Ray. Well, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you later. When you're getting ready to go on your next hunting trip, make sure you pack the most efficient and reliable ammunition on the market. Migra Ammunition brings you the most diverse loads on the market. Migra's patented stacked load technology is the epitome of efficiency. 2 shot sizes stacked together to create the most diverse and efficient line of shot shells in the industry. It doesn't matter what flyway, what state, or what the weather, the standard remains the same. At Migra, reliable loads that perform in any condition every single time. We're proud to have Migra Ammunition as a sponsor for Gundog Nation.